The man suddenly saw a terrifying scene. The puddle on the ground was vibrating rhythmically, yet there was no sound in the forest. Looking at the vibrating water surface, Frank realized immediately there might be sounds around that humans couldn't hear. So he quickly turned on his equipment and started recording. Then after compiling and amplifying the signal, a strange frequency indeed appeared in his headphones. But this sound was somewhat eerie. The sound waves were not only very short, but also very muffled. He had never heard such a sound before. Following the intensity of the sound, Frank walked deeper into the forest. When he reached a clearing, he heard the sound's intensity suddenly increase. Frank looked back and surprisingly found a patch of white mushrooms not far away. These mushrooms were growing in a perfect circle. Curious, Frank wanted to get a closer look, but as he reached the edge of the mushroom circle, Frank suddenly felt the world spinning. Then he passed out. When Frank opened his eyes again, it was already evening. He got up and looked around, finding himself lying right in the center of that mushroom circle. This sudden experience made Frank somewhat panicked. He quickly picked up his equipment from the ground and hurried back to the cabin down the mountain. Then he played the sound recorded during the day for Amy. Hearing the sound, Amy also found it strange. Although the sound was very noisy, Amy felt like many things were communicating within this sound. But just as the two wanted to investigate further, strange things happened again. Upon hearing the sound, Amy suddenly became excited. She walked towards Frank, and Frank began experiencing similar sensations. When they opened their eyes again, it was already the next day. Looking at the scratches on Amy's back, Frank felt somewhat dazed. He tried to recall what happened yesterday, but he had absolutely no memory of it. Then the tape recorder on the table suddenly turned on by itself, playing back the sound they had collected in the forest. Upon hearing the sound, both of them suddenly became glassy-eyed and lost consciousness. As the recording played, strange black patterns began appearing on the walls at home. Those black patterns started spreading throughout the room. No one knew how much time had passed. A little boy unexpectedly appeared outside the cabin. He walked straight into the small house, and by now the interior environment had also changed. The furniture was covered in moss and mushrooms. Even the walls were enveloped by them. The boy came to the bedroom, finding Frank and Amy lying in bed. The boy proactively lay down on the bed too. Then something eerie happened. Yellow mucus began flowing from the boy's body. The next moment, the boy who was originally lying on the bed turned into a rabbit. After the boy disappeared, the surroundings returned to normal. At the end of the story, Frank and Amy buried the rabbit in the mushroom circle. It turned out there was never any little boy. Everything they saw was an illusion produced by that sound. Although this bizarre experience left Amy and Frank somewhat terrified, the boy's appearance also made them feel the charm of nature.